Welcome everybody to another episode of The Big Show. Today, we're going to talk about gender roles and the differences between mothers and fathers as it relates to raising children. I'm your host, Jimmy Smith, and today we're diving deep into the fascinating topic of how gender roles shape our children's upbringing. Now, beside me today is a father, a husband, and a man who has spent years educating himself on the data that shows how our modern day culture has affected the dating market, the unions between man and woman, and also how these outcomes has bled down to our children's successes or failures. He has also compiled a really great website for men who seek to learn more about custody rights and how to get shared parenthood with your children. The site is pissedoffparent.com, and the creator himself is my good friend, Dwayne Ward. Dwayne, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm hanging there. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. So today what we're going to do is we're going to jump into a topic that, you and I dabble in from here and there on different podcasts, but we're going to just go ahead and dedicate a whole damn show to it today.
Woo, we're going to be potentially pissing some people off. I don't know if you need to offer some disclaimers up front. One, I'll speak for myself. I don't hate women. I'm married. So there's that. This is just, the position that we're coming from, or the data I've collected over the years, which is freely available. These are, known organizations, Pew data, national archive data, and all that. And this is just the data. It's not personal opinion. It's not, it's not men, men hating women. Although after you look at the data, you gotta be surprised if you don't end up. But again, for the people that, are going to be upset about some of this information that comes out, if it's not already known, sorry, the data is the data. That's what I always tell people.
Yeah. And, there's an old saying, don't kill the messenger. And that derived from when, there was kingdoms that would send someone like a concierge over to another kingdom to give news on good or bad things. And sometimes the news wasn't so good. And so the person receiving the news got so mad, they'd want to execute the messenger, and that is just the deliverer of said news. So what you're basically saying is that, a lot of what we're talk about today is not our opinion of how things are, although we will give our opinions, of course, but we really try to do a good job blending in our opinions, but also backing them up with a lot of data. And Dwayne, over the years, has put together a full-scale website where you guys can go and see the data that we're talking about and see all the sources that he is citing these things from. So it's not like he's pulling them out of his rear end. It's all there disclosed. So if some of the stuff that we talk about today lands really nice for you, well, then I'm happy. If some of it doesn't land very nice at all, look.
My hope is my hope is that when you see some of this data, you go, or data, depends on what version of Star Trek you like. This for the Star Trek nerds out there. If you see some of this, you go, wow, we've got to make some changes. To carry this over to health, if you go to the doctor and the doctor says, look, your blood pressure's through the roof, you're 300 pounds, you're on all this stuff, you're fat, you're going to die soon if you don't change this around. Don't get mad at the doctor for telling you that you're fat. Go, I need to start exercising. I need to start eating better. I need, start making that decision. And don't go, well, in my case, I know that smoking deletes people early. Well, George Burns and all these other people, I had Uncle Bob that he smoked cigarettes until he was 110 and he passed away. Great. That happened once in a blue moon. The data, the statistics, all the information that we have to work with shows that smoking is a direct link to cancer. Work with that information. Stop smoking. Don't be Uncle Bob.
Yeah. Well, great point. Life is a finicky thing, right? Because people and genetics and DNA and how we're made up and how we live our lives and a little bit of luck have a lot to do with how outcomes, arise. And I wish there was something that we could teach anyone. I wish there was someone that anyone could teach anyone that would help you win 100% of the time, but there's not. But to the smoking analogy, I mean, if you smoke cigarettes your entire lives, the chances of you living to your normal life expectancy is going to be shortened. And it doesn't mean that those who smoke will not live. So, I mean, there's people, like to your point, that have lived to be 100 years old and they smoke. Well, that's cool, but that's less than 1%.
Right.
So if, 86%, and that's just a made up number, if 86% die early from smoking and 1% live longer than everybody else, what do you want to gamble on,
Exactly. Yeah. And the information, when you start looking at it, you see the disturbing little preview there. It's disturbing numbers. You can go, wow, we've got to start making differences in family court, in divorce and breakups and how we rear our children. Or you can say, well, my Aunt Sue, I'm a single mother and I raised my child and he turned out to be a valedictorian. Great, fantastic. You escape the statistic. Well, you're still a statistic, but you escape the negative statistic. You're in the minority. Let's go with statistics.
Yeah, true. When it comes to gender roles, raising kids, things like that, it's kind of no different. You play the odds,
Play the odds. Yeah. I mean, every time, you and a woman get together and have a child, there's statistical data that the child could end up with certain hereditary issues, could not make it to full term, that someone decides they don't want the child anymore. There's all these different things that could come in, but we have statistics and data to work with.
It's true. Gender roles themselves have been really ingrained in societies for centuries. It's not new, right?
Right.
Dictating how individuals should behave based on their perceived gender.
Right.
But in today's world, many parents are challenging these norms and raising their children in a more gender neutral environment. Gender fluid environment, neutral environment. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about why this is, why it's happening, what the changes actually are, and how it's affected how we're raising kids today. So here's a list of questions that I'm going to be asking Dwayne, and I'm going to be covering these questions myself, and I'm going to tackle today these questions in hopes to uncover some hard truths and shed light on what the effects are of all these changes and how it's affecting our children. Yeah. Because in recent decades, traditional gender roles have undergone a significant transformation, reshaping societal norms, influencing various aspects of all of our lives, including how we raise kids. And historically, rigid gender expectations dictated specific roles and behaviors for individuals based on their biological sex. However, as societies evolve, so sometimes do the perceptions of gender, leading to a confusing understanding of roles and responsibilities. And I think that's where we're at in the year 2024. And this shift has profound implications for how we approach child rearing and the values we instill in the next generation. One of the most notable changes in gender roles is the blurring of the lines between traditionally masculine and feminine tasks.
Right.
In the past, men were typically expected to be the primary breadwinners, while women were expected to do more domestic duties and take on the caregiving roles.
Right.
However, as more women enter the workforce and achieve higher, greater economic independence, the division of labor between the households has become a little more equitable than it ever has before. And this shift that's happening, it challenges the notions that certain tasks are inherently gendered and encourages parents to model equality and shared responsibility for their children. Okay. At first glance, many may say, well, Jimmy, that seems great. Equity for all. Women are liberated and valued and independent. And yes, those are true. Those are true. Women are more educated than they ever have been. Women do make more money than they ever have before. Women have more privileges than they ever have before. That said, this must mean that society's better off, right?
I don't want to
Women,
ruin the surprise.
women are happier than ever, right? But are they? Are they happier? Is society better? Are the batches of children that we send out into the world, are they better human beings who contribute more than any child has ever contributed in the history of humanity? Is our country better off? In short, is this liberation that women so desperately wanted producing the outcomes that they hoped it would? And that's what we're going to tackle today. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. My first question I'm going to ask you, Dwayne, if you don't mind me answering, or if you don't mind answering, is do you think that we need to have clearly defined gender roles amongst a time in life where there seems to be none? What do you think?
I think we need to. I mean, we have the data on, when we have that gender fluid. I assume you mean in relation to coupling and in a household, like, the man would have the traditional gender role in the household, and the woman would have the traditional, she would be more of the cooking, the cleaning. The man would be more of the, lawn mowing and the paint in the house and going out to work and those things. When you say gender roles,
fixing
a Mustang. There we go. Fixing a Mustang, or working on a car. Those. Yeah, I mean, in it, even in the gender fluid, it gets confusing because there's been experiences where men that were single that then get involved in a relationship. We think we've established those traditional gender roles because we're told that, and then over time that line blurs. Like, well, why didn't you do the laundry, or the laundry doesn't get done, or the dishes don't get done, or lunch doesn't get made, or and then it becomes this big thing, and not having it clearly defined causes those issues, because then one person starts feeling that they are doing more than the other, when
Right.
in reality it's not true. It's usually the other way around, but they have that mentality.
Yeah, true. For me, in short, yes, I also agree. Men and women, Dwayne, have different talents that make tasks better
Yeah.
suited for one gender over the other.
That's the obvious one, yeah.
Right.
That's an obvious.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that men and women have biological predispositions that causes them to be better suited towards different sorts of tasks. Here's an example. At the age of 3, boys show around 50 to 70% better throwing accuracy than girls do. Women, on the other hand, women have better total recall. And this is why men
do they ever?
And this is why men are always losing their keys, but women can tell you exactly where they're at.
Right.
So they are just the predispositions are just different. Let's think about why this might be the case too. It all really stems back in time, right? Ancestrally, back in the day, men would have to be looking at things that were running, perhaps sideways along to them, and they'd have a spear in their hand. And that means that spatial rotation, being able to manipulate 3D objects in space in their mind, and then causing that to happen in the real world, would have been really adaptive. Also, if women were staying at home, if they were moving around the local area, perhaps picking berries, perhaps making sure that the children were being looked after, they're supposed to be good at that as well. So it means that there are capacities that each different sex has that dispose them to doing different things.
Yeah.
And we may not be in the primal days of the 1500s, but there are still those differences that bleed in even into a modern day era as 2024. So you're going to have things that men do better and things that women do better.
And then some of it's subjective, because there's a long-running issue in the Ward household on who can fold towels better. Apparently, I do it wrong. I'm just going to throw that out. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm going to go after Brandy on this one. It's going to be one of those shows. But I fold the towels, and I'm told I do it wrong.
I was told I should never wash dishes ever again.
Yeah.
So the second question I got for you is, why do you think that people think there shouldn't be clearly defined gender roles? And out of the two, men and women, who do you see thinks more along that way?
So brought that question back up there. It was a lot of words and a lot of multi-syllabic ones. So I got to see, why do you think that people think there shouldn't be clear defined gender roles? And out of the two, men and women, who do you see? Okay. I personally would assume that it'd be women that would be pushing for more of the gender fluid. There shouldn't be specific gender roles because they want to take on, or they assume they think they want to take on more of the more traditional manly duties, fixing the lawnmower, changing the oil, work on the house, intruders, stopping intruders that come in the house. The list is long and very. A pipe breaks, your air conditioning goes out. That all those things on the list. I don't know what that comment was that popped up. It's almost like we ought to jump in and see also the single moms that play the roles of dad and mom, primary breadwinner. There's a lot of things that bake into that comment. Was the father pushed out? Was he not a good person? And then there's of course the one-offs. I mean, there are moms that do play both, and it does have to happen when the father is absent, not he's been removed by the court system. And unfortunately, when in my past, I don't have what it takes to do it anymore. But when I used to press people on that issue, you then find out that they're getting child support, alimony, they're living, they're getting money from a number of different sources, and they leave the kid with their mother, or other boyfriend, whatever, and all that. And once you uncover all that, you just go, all right, I'm done. That's happened so many times with me. I don't even get into that conversation anymore.
Yeah,
but whole different thing. But I would say, yeah, women are the ones pushing, because men, I think we know, I guess down to the DNA that when there's a crash in the night, or you hear someone pounding on the door at 2 a.m, we're the ones that are going to do it. We're not looking over and going, hey, hon, there's someone in the house, can you go ahead and take care of that? We're the ones that immediately go there. When the car breaks down, we're the ones that go, when we have a flat tire on the side of the road, we're the ones that get out and change it. When the house needs painting, we can do this in a 20-hour thing. And I think a lot of times it seems like anecdotal experience and data is that they forget about that part of it. They think it's
conveniently do, don't they?
It is convenient because it goes back into that whole equal pay argument that keeps coming up, like we should get paid equal. Well, women don't go for the jobs like the oil rig workers, the firefighters, in numbers. So that's why they don't get paid. They don't stay late. Again, this is all data that we have. This is not anecdotal information. This is data that has been compiled, Pew Research, and all that looks at actual government. Yeah, it's not open to interpretation. It's but it seems a lot of times they conveniently forget about those things, or if it's house task like cooking dinner or doing laundry or cleaning or whatever, they conveniently forget that we've done it a million times. We just don't whine and argue about it and talk about it. We just do it because that's just kind of what we do.
Yeah. So
and we're jerks if we bring it up. That's the fun one. Anyway, moving on.
It is. Oh my goodness.
3-hour conversation. Here we go.
Yeah. So here's my opinion. Here's my advice. Well, you know what? Hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself, Dwayne. Before I give you my advice, okay, before I spew out all the advice that I have as the host of this podcast, you remember last week we had our infamous troll Fitzgerald Ernie on there.
Yeah.
And that person was saying how we just give awful advice and we're just evil people.
Horrible.
And he was
saying, we're not married.
we're
I'm
not
not married.
married. Yeah, we have no jobs and we're broke and we live on the
Yeah.
streets and we've never been in
Yep.
a relationship before. And we
Okay.
give angry, toxic advice. So,
Right.
just full disclosure, everybody, I'm about to give you a piece of advice. So here is my warning sign before I give you my advice. Guys, in full disclosure, here comes some big show advice. But before I do, angry, toxic advice. There you have it, folks.
Oh,
Here comes some angry, toxic advice from the
oh
big
God.
show. But if you're asking me, why do I think that people feel there should be gender roles, and out of the two, who I think does it more or thinks this way more, I find that women do often subscribe to this way more than men do, because men have civilized this world so much that women and people in general are safer than they ever have been before in history.
Yeah.
Am I saying that there are not things that go wrong? Of course not.
Yeah.
But it is safer. We've been safer, historically than we ever have been. So women tend to think that they don't need men. And
Yeah.
I'm talking to one of these women who don't subscribe to these so-called gender roles. And I said to her, I said, okay, well, can I ask you a question? I said, you and your man have dinner. And let's say as you're walking out into the parking lot, a guy jumps out with a knife. Now, in one of these scenarios, your guy jumps in front of you and puts himself in between the attacker and you. Now,
There's
in
another
the other
scenario.
scenario, he
Oh, there's
hides behind you.
okay.
Okay. In which scenario are you more attracted to your man? And she looks at me and she smiles and she goes, well, that's not fair. And I said,
Of
hey,
course,
I said,
it's not fair.
I said, hey, okay, all right.
You're mean. You're
Yeah.
rude.
Fair or not, you're the one that just indicated that you know what's right and you know what's true when it comes down to brass tacks. So
Yeah.
what about this? Same scenario. Guy jumps out with a knife. Under your ideology, both genders can do each other's roles. In this
Yeah.
scenario, who do you feel, ma'am, is better suited to handle it, you or him? If you, ma'am, were to have handled this guy with a knife 100 different times, how many times do you think you would be able to come out alive compared to if he handled it 100 times? You see, my point is that it's really nice to pretend that we live in a world where nothing bad happens,
Right.
and say, oh, and men don't have to fill that role. But as soon as something bad does happen, you want him to be able to fulfill that role. It's hypocritical. So it's one of those things where I absolutely do think that there should be gender roles. And if you really get down to the brass tacks of it, nearly every woman, if they're being honest with themselves, also agree to it. I just think that in the beginning, there was I don't want to use the word power grab, but there was a desire for equality, and we were all on board with it, men and women alike. I mean, let's be honest.
First wave made sense. First wave feminism made sense.
We all were on board with it, but it didn't stop at equality. It then became the power grab that we see it having become today. And what it's turned into is inequality, because not all women, but there is a ton of women, especially the modern one, the younger ones. They want all the benefits of having perks, but they don't want the outcomes of equality.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And that's where guys are giving the pushback. And that's where we see where we're at today, is that guys are like, look, hey, you want to make 100 grand a year like me? Okay, cool. Jump on board this oil rig and let's get out there and let's start pushing some heavy iron. You want to make 300 grand a year? Well, then come over here and let's be a scientist together.
Oh, STEM, yeah.
But you want to make 80 grand a year? Okay, cool. Come on this roof and hang shingles with me. I don't know if those guys make 80 grand. I'm just making this stuff up. But my point, nonetheless, is that the dangerous jobs are primarily dominated by men.
Right.
Jobs that are no fun to do, done by men. As a matter of fact, all the hard stuff in the world are pretty much done by men. And even the ones that are in science, technology, engineering, and math, all the STEM, which is generally some of the highest paying jobs on the planet, despite millions of dollars pumping into the advertising for women to jump on board with us, is still predominantly dominated by men.
Right.
So, I think that most people will agree that equality is something we want, but there has to be equal input to get the expected output.
Right. Yeah.
So
makes perfect sense.
Let's go on to question number 3. Question number 3 I got for you is this.
Okay.
Are there more single mothers raising children than ever before? And I'm going to go ahead and give this one to you to take over, because I want to not necessarily give my opinion, but I know you to be the data guy. So if you don't mind, could you take over this one? And do you have any sort of like statistics that you could show that might be able to support the claim that you're about to make?
Yeah, I was going to ask, is this a, let's see if I can do the right, it's not letting me do. Yeah, no, we're all over the place here. There we go. Had to click the right one. Okay, so is this a joke question, or
no?
Are there more single?
It's a serious question. I've seen the stats, but there's a lot of people watching right now who maybe have not. So learn them up.
Wow. Okay. Well, and all this information, you can go to Pissed Off Parent. Again, the app on the iOS and the Google Play Store, all free. When I started doing this, I basically said anything that I produce or make or whatever will be free of charge to everybody, because let's face it, most of the people that are on this channel or that deal with these type of things have been screwed over by everybody in the past. I'm not going to be one of those people. So, here you go. All right. So to the single parent thing, let's just pull up a let's see here. Here we go. Chart. And let me expand the screen here, because I know everyone's probably got old people eyes like me. So this is, I think, as of 2018 is the latest data. So the United States, in the single parent home, which again 80 to 90% depends on the state, is probably a mid 80s. The woman primarily has custody, and the man is usually the weekend warrior or removed completely. But this is kind of the spread pattern for the United States up until 2018. We'll go and do one here in another year or two. And I think it's actually higher now than 23% in the United States, but 23% overall. And I'll be able to break down by race as well here on another slide. But 23% United States is, we are actually United States is number 1 in single parenthood.
Wow.
Yay us. That's one of the things that kind of ticks me off. Whereas you got, Japan, more traditional. Of course, they have their own issues. Don't even get me started on that. 7%. Let's see here. I'm trying to look at I went to public high school, so we have to figure out the continents here. But Mexico, traditional family for a lot of it, 7%. The ones that have those traditional family values, where it's traditional roles, man leads, woman is the helpmate, and they have, again, those really traditional roles. You have a lot lower percentage of divorce. Whereas,
so if you don't mind me jumping in here right now, because here's what I'm seeing when I look at this graph here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of some of the most unruly, uncooperative, masculine women on the planet, you think American women. And when you look at how that translates to single households, it's at the very top. Let's go the other way now. Let's go the other way. When you think of who are some of the most feminine, traditional, submissive, cooperative women on the planet, I think Mexican women, I think women over in the Middle East, I think women, Asian women, they are some of the most cooperative helpmates on the planet. And look at the stats there. Look at Vietnam, 4%. Look at Japan, 7%. Look at Mexico, 7%. Mm-hmm. Look at India.
That's why you have past.
Look at Afghanistan, 1%. Pakistan, 6%. There's a direct correlation between women who are unruly and independent and masculine and I don't need no man compared to the ones that are more cooperative, more understanding, more traditional, and they've got themselves a man. They can keep a man, and her and that man are raising babies for the entirety of their lives.
Yeah, well, men have figured that out, the millennials especially, but we have the phrase called passport bros. That's kind of like one of the latest flavors out there. And it's basically men are not looking in America for a partner anymore. They're going overseas. And you see why. This is back to that I have high blood pressure, I'm overweight, I'm this and this and this, and you're fat. People can get upset with this, or they can acknowledge the facts here in the data and go that women have become unruly. Again, they win 85-90% of the time in divorces. They marry to get divorced. They ruin a man through divorce. And men are like, I'm not going to do that. They either become monks, or they they get their passport and go somewhere else and go that route. I mean, this is where we're at.
And whenever I'm on these men's forums and they're talking about women, these are men that are all around the world, and a lot of the feedback that I'm getting is that the Western ideology of American women are bleeding over into Europe.
Oh, and,
look at the stats. The Europeans are, 21% in the UK, Ireland 14%, Germany's up to 12%, France is up to 16%. There's just a direct correlation between that.
Yeah,
I'll leave it there.
Oh, there's so many things here. I mean, I pulled up here for single parent statistics as of 2024. So 80% of all single parents in the U.S. are single moms. So that basically, and that is, I would say, low based on some of the other data that I have. Again, they're all pulling it from the same location. But then if anyone's taking the Statistics 101 course, you have standard deviation, you have like certain things that they leave out, or they say, oh, this isn't going to be part of the population. If you do just the mass single parent and then move the numbers together, it's more like an 85% with single parents. And again, 20% being single fathers. This part here is a scary statistic, and I hope everyone understands what the 53% of single mothers are millennials, is that since, again, when no-fault divorce got passed in 1969 by Ronald Reagan, and then it swept the country. And actually, I have videos from that time frame that would blow your mind. Whole different thing. I can talk about this for hours. And then you have the generational thinking that gets passed down, and these young women are being taught, that this is how you do it, and I can prove all that data out as well. Millennials now are at 53%. And it's just getting worse. And then I can break it down by race and give a interesting, and again, all this information, for the links and all information are free on the Pissed Off Parent site. So you can do this yourself. I basically collected all the information because it wasn't out there when I first started looking at it. And that's kind of how Pissed Off Parent happened. Is I was like, I was trying to find information for my court case over a decade ago. And I'm like, oh, well, what about this? And as I dug in more, I'm a data guy. I'm like, I need to have a place to put this because people are asking me about it. And I'm like, all right, I'll make a website. What should I call it? It's not a, bleeding heart, whatever. I'm a pissed off parent because of what I was going through. And that's how the name happened. You can see the Genesis story about that and why I have the anchor and all that stuff on there. Anyway. Yeah. So you have all this data, on here, and it just talks about you talk about the single parents, 2021 61%, and it looks like a scary number. And then black being 31%. I like to talk about the black family and what the government has done to the black family. And I don't have like all the specific info here, but I do have, I think, let's see, there's demographics. This is on the single mother guide. Where's the one? Yeah, here you can go. This is again aecf.org. They collected from when you do your what was it called, the census every couple of years. Yeah. So it breaks it all down. This is where a lot of the information comes from. So again, this is not Jimmy and the pissed off parent hanging out going, God, I hate women, and we're going to say this and say that. This is data that is collected, and then you take that information, you extrapolate information. Again, Statistics 101. I'm trying to find the one here. Oh, that's consequences. We'll get into that. I don't have, so you're gonna have to like trust me unless you go to the website and find the information. It's all there. But I thought I had the one. I do like to talk about the black family and what happened, and just I guess go listen to. Yeah, it's not on this one.
I think what you're alluding to is that, like, back in the 50s and 60s, right smack in the middle of racism and Jim Crow era, the black family was married at over 80%.
There we go.
Were happily married.
Even on my website.
Right. And what you see is when you give government assistance, when you give money away,
right. The women,
what happened was the African American women started to leave their families. They started to shun their black husbands. And now, unfortunately, the black community in America is married at a rate of black women in today's world, in the world 2024, is only married at a rate of, I think, 24 or 23%.
Yeah.
Only 1 in 4 African American ladies in America will ever be married.
It's I mean, it's one of the, when you look at the data again, 40s, 50s, 60s, up until again, no fault divorce got passed. The black family was hands down the strongest family in America. Hands down, there's just no even argument about it. And when the government said, okay, women, black women, we will go ahead and subsidize you and give you a house and give you Section 8, give you all these things. But it actually says in the documentation, you cannot have a man in the house. It says it in the documentation. So for whatever reason, I mean, we're not going to even, I have no idea why they did it. And I'm not going to question why, but for some reason, the numbers immediately changed to where there were now no men in the house, and black women were living off of welfare and living off baby daddy government. That's what happened. And then, you mix in there the culture with the music and all that. Again, this is all data that basically taught the lifestyle of, sleeping with a woman and leaving. That became a cultural cool thing to do. And that just exacerbated the whole thing. And it just made it even worse. And this is why the black family has been destroyed. I mean, the entire black culture, black family has been destroyed as a result of it, and it's really hurt the nation, because they were I can't emphasize enough, they were the strongest, hands down, nuclear family in America for decades.
Yeah, and it is absolutely a shame. And one of the stats that I saw also recently, I don't have this stat to show right now, so this is going to be one of those chalk it up to, just
believe me,
I guess. But the stat that I saw is that when black fathers are active in their children's lives, the ones who are doing the right thing, they are more active in their child's life than any other race out there. So
hands down,
it's polarized, where there's some stand-up good African American dads who are doing the right thing, and they're not only doing the right thing, but they're doing it better than all the other races. And then there's the other ones who just go, you know what, I'm washing my hands of it, I'm out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, with the black dads, when they're on point and doing their job and being allowed to, that's another big one. Yeah. They, hands down, the metrics on development of children, it's embarrassing. I mean, because everyone's like, oh, white this or Indian or Hispanic, or the black dudes, when they're allowed to be in the kid's life and they're able to be fathers, they are hands down the best ones. I mean, the numbers are there. And unfortunately, black mothers and baby daddy government, you got to wonder. I mean, again, I'm a big conspiracist. I wear the tinfoil hat all the time. It's almost like it was designed that way. They went after the weakest link, the black females, or just say females, and told them, we'll give you money and you can sit on your butt and do nothing and be strong and independent and all that if you get rid of the man. And they went, sure. I mean, they sold out their kids' future, because, and some of the other things I hope we'll be talking about is the impact to children as a result of fatherlessness.
Well,
the data is scary.
Let's go ahead and jump right into that, because that's the next obvious question that probably everyone's thinking right now is, okay, well, Dwayne, you give us the stats.
Got you riled up.
We see what's going on out there. So question number 4 is, what are the effects of mothers raising children without the father in the home? What's the outcome? Dwayne, do you have anything to support that?
God, there's so much horrible data. Actually, if you go to I thought it was important enough that when you go to the app or you go to the website, the app actually has a little bit more. I have a cute little video thing that pops up, some data on fatherless homes. You know, 18.3 million children, 25%. That's actually the latest numbers. I know the other one said 23. The more updated numbers that I got recently was the 25%. So 90% of your runaways. There's actually, I hope the ladies are listening to the fourth one, because I really want to hit something home on this one. But 90% of runaways are from fatherless homes. 71% of dropouts, fatherless homes. 85% of everyone that's in prison come from a fatherless home. 75% of grapists, and then we can't say the actual word because we'll get banned on everything. What happens is these children are growing up and not getting the things that they need. And we're obviously talking about boys here. And when they talk about what caused them to do this, it was because they were not raised with a strong father. Because think about it with common sense. You know, as you're growing up, you see a strong male figure, and it's really your father, not a strong male figure, but your father, and he acts a certain way. Those are things that you pick up on. If you're bringing due to the weekend and beating you up and all kinds of stuff, that kid that's what they learn. Of course, then the mom doesn't have time to spend with the kid and all kinds of other stuff. And I consider and talk about anecdotal info and also the data, but 75% the data is that the grapists, 75% of them come from fatherless homes. You can correlate that to whatever you want. 47.6% are in poverty. So that's 4 times greater than a 2-parent home. I mean, obviously, these kids were being raised in poverty. And if you think about it out loud, usually, you know, the man's working when there was a income or a intact house. And then when you break it out, the courts, of course, steal everything, including your kid's future. And then the dad has to support his house and live somehow. And then, of course, he's supporting the mom's house, is child support, alimony, all that fun stuff. So obviously 2 homes, same incomes, it's common sense what happens. And then 85% behavior problems. And actually that picture is from some kids that were trying to steal some stuff from my house, but that's a whole different story. But 85% problem. If you look at the data on mental issues in children growing up, the numbers are just going through the roof, because men, categorically, we instill that confidence. We teach our children. We those are things that we bring to the table, more so than women. And again, this is data, not personal opinion. But we teach them, you know, confidence and how to stand up for yourself. And some of it, I hope, is common sense for folks. But yeah, that's just some of it. If you want to see where some of the information comes from, let's see where we're at here. Consequences. Okay, that's poverty alone. Oh, that was the one I wanted to get to before that shows your statistics as well.
That was the Department of Health.
Yeah, Department of Health, a small little known website that has, you know, biased information on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, here this is, you know, an abstract from a paper, talks about, you know, linked to increased deletions, assaults, drive-by blankety blankers, drug, alcohol abuse. I mean, this is known stuff that we've had data on for over 6 years. And if you get a chance, I'll bring us back here to this. The boy crisis. William Farrell, who used to be a feminist. Actually, I believe you may have met him in some of your travels. Great guy. He used to be a feminist. And doing research on this book and others, he said, I can no longer be on the side of feminists. And they, of course, you know, don't want anything to do with them because all the data in here supports that. And then when you want to talk about issues with children and all that, there's another one called the Handbook of Attachment Theory. That this will get into some things that I've talked about before that will really upset mostly women if they don't understand the context of it. But the damage to children from fatherless homes is ridiculous. Though the worst, actually, Ann Coulter. If you Google Ann Coulter and father so and so, she wrote a book which I have somewhere, and she says the single biggest thing you could do to a child, the single worst thing you do to a child, is make sure that he does not have a father growing up. That is, you could delete them. You could, draw every other metric in there. The worst thing you could do to that child is to make sure he grows up without a father.
Yeah.
And this is the data. This is the data.
Stats don't lie. But even though they're stats, and even though this is not coming from us, we still have the trolls in the comments section.
Oh, really?
And yeah, well, I mean, we use the word African American, so of course that must mean.
Oh, good God. Oh my God. You guys are just, I get so black women. Yeah, whatever. Okay.
Check this one out. You better check yourself. Black women would be submissive to
Sure.
white dudes like you. And isn't that funny that the most racist people usually are the ones that come out and say something like this? But
Hypocrisy. What do you expect?
you know,
This be so data that we have that has been reported through Pew Research, census bureaus, and all that. That's racist. So
that's racist.
in
Yeah.
another, I guess I'd put it another way. So if I tell you that you're fat because you have high cholesterol, you refuse to work out. I'm fat phobic. I'm obviously
or the BMI scales fat phobic.
There we go. That must be it. Yeah.
It's just so funny how human beings are, man. You know, like they really do want to kill the messenger. It doesn't matter where the data, where the stats come from. If anyone hears something that hurts their feelings, then you get crybaby Jamals in the comments section.
Well, it's crazy. So was I racist when I said hands down the black family was the strongest nuclear family back before no fault divorce hit? Was I racist then, or was I racist now? I don't know.
I wonder if it was racist whenever I made the comment that active black fathers are some of the best fathers on the planet. I wonder if he thinks that was racist.
Yeah, I know. And this just goes to the people can't, their brains just don't work. They live that cognitive dissonance. They just can't, like, they see all the data and all the facts and all the information, and all I can say is you're a racist or call you a name, which, as we all know, that's how you know you've lost the argument, is they call you a name. Whatever. This is the data. You can argue with it. I don't care.
Yep. So.
Yeah. And again, and what's funny is that, these are the people that you're going to encounter when you try to share this information. It's one of those, it's information, do what you will with it. I mean, I'm sure people, and what's funny is people think that, well, it's going back to the whole black thing, that, blacks have always been bad, have always had this, has always had that. And the data shows otherwise. It was just when the government got involved, always a theme there, when the government gets involved, that's when the destruction happened. And they have the highest, hands down, single parenthood. They're, I think, 75% now. I think it was the latest data that came out. 75% single parenthood, and we're seeing all the effects of that every single day. But whatever. That's all I can say. I can't argue common sense with people that have no common sense and can't actually think. But here we are.
Yeah, well, I mean, people like Jamal, they only see things in color. So unless you're pandering to them and praising him, then he'll be happy. But Lord have mercy, you show something that you didn't even create, and here
what's weird is he's a dude. I could kind of see a chick doing it, but a black dude saying those things. It's just it's just weird. It's weird. It doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know.
It's white men data. That's what it is.
The Census Bureau.
There's only white people that work for the Census Bureau.
This is just
only white people work for the CDC.
Oh God, are we on clown?
It's all the data from the whiteys.
Anyway, that's not racist, but go ahead. Yeah,
that's just the world that we live in. So I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I honestly expected a whole bunch of women to be in the well, I mean, Jamal's here, so other than that, I expected women to be in the comment section spouting off about how they do so much better than two-parent households. But let's switch gears. Let's actually talk about fatherless households a little more. Let's dive into it and talk about how difficult it is for women to play both roles. Because let's be honest, I mean, it's really hard. No matter what, she can never truly replace a man's ability to govern, to instill discipline or structure into the household. And even when single mothers try to do that, because they're actually kind of forced to at least try, it just doesn't land that well, And so I'm not saying, I was about to say, I feel bad. Some of the women out there, not all, but some of the women out there have done it to themselves. And we all know this, right?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, ladies, it's a task that you'll always be a winner at a losing game. You can never fully replace both parents in the household. And it's going to make your life exponentially tougher if you are choosing this lifestyle. And what I mean by choosing is because you're the one that controls access to sex.
Right.
And I've said this many times on my dating advice. Ladies, it is a very bad idea. Just don't do it. It's a very bad idea to give the highest honor that a woman can give a man, which is her womb, giving him babies. That's the highest honor a woman can give a man, to a man who has not yet put a ring on your finger. Don't give
Common
babies
sense.
to men who haven't married you. And if you just follow that piece of advice, it might scratch out 50% of all the brain damage that ladies have to go through out there.
How dare you tell me what to do? I'm independent.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll be here in the comment section for that one.
Can we bottom feed the ladies? Because every time we talk about women can't fulfill the role of the man, they can't think the logical next the statement that we already know. We just don't say it out loud, which is that men can't replace. Well, there is some statistics, but men can't replace what the woman brings to the table.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I hate having to say that every time, because it seems like when you talk with people, they deal in absolutes. Like, well, not in my situation. I have an Uncle Bob. I have an Aunt Sue. I raised my kid without a father, and he turned out to be the valedictorian. Or, my child is perfect. We didn't have no man. Or, my ex-spouse or my spouse passed away, and I didn't do it as a widow. And that's a whole other podcast. Whenever these comments are made, the natural inclination is to, for some reason, argue and not use common sense. And that's one of the biggest things that are missing from a lot of people that comment. I think some of the recent ones that have popped up. When we're saying that, women cannot replace the role that men have, it goes the same way back to women. And actually, this book has data on that very thing that's been talked about. And you find it all over it's not just this book. We have all kinds of data. I don't know if you want to get into the part that probably will anger females when you talk about the data. I don't know if we're at that point in the show to really tick people off. I'll go there. Direct all your hate mail at me. This is the data. You can shoot the messenger all you want. I'll just go there. So the data shows that between the ages of 0 and I think it's like 3 or 4. And again, this is conservative, liberal numbers coming back, but say 3 or 4. The baby is more dependent upon the woman. The man does play a part, but it's not near as significant as the woman.
They need their mother much more.
It's a thing. Now, when you go from like 4 to 7, that starts to change. And when you're at 7 to 9, and especially the teenage years, the numbers of single mom, single father, and equal mom and dad in the household, the dad only and mom and dad in the household, the numbers are basically identical. There's like a notch, and the woman is way down here on need. That's the data. Hate whoever you want. Your son Johnny was the exception. Not my baby. Whatever argument you want to come up with, the data that we have, 60 plus years of data, that's what it shows.
It's true, man. I've seen the data as well.
Yeah.
And let me go ahead and continue to give a little bit of advice to the ladies out there. Before I do, angry, toxic advice.
I love that part. Love it. That's my Achilles heel every time.
I knew you would love it.
That's my Achilles heel.
I knew you would love it. So, Dwayne, what kind of shocks me is that there are so many women out there having babies with men that the women, openly say that they would not want to marry. When you ask women, hey, why didn't you and the baby's father get married? No, he wasn't husband material. But he's good enough to make a baby with, but he's not good enough to marry.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of women would be like, well, I kind of understand that. All the guys are going like, what?
Yeah. It makes, and ladies, if someone knows, please, because I've sat there. I think every guy in the world would love this. Like, why would you ever sleep with a man you have zero desire? And again, this is for younger with the idea of getting married. There's certain specific things, because I know we have free sex and all that, but why would you ever have a child with a guy that is not quality material, that's not marriage material? It defies logic. I have no idea.
bro, you're so right. There are women out there, Dwayne, that are having babies with men that they openly say that they hate. They don't respect them. They think that these men are pieces of shit. Like they come out and just say it out in the open. They're not even, coy about it.
No.
Imagine giving your highest honor to a man that you think is trash.
Makes no sense.
You're going to make a baby with a man that you think, that you claim, you tell the world he ain't shit. He's trash. And then get out there on the open dating market, older, more miles, and now with children.
Right.
And you actually think, they actually think they're going to find a man better than the one they had babies with to take on that situation.
So this is where I think that this is where I go, women are delusional. I know they get all mad and all that, but I'm like, give me another explanation for why you would do that. This baby is half yours and half the man's DNA. If he's a Chad, I think is the popular loser name or whatever for a guy. If he's a loser, no job, no prospects, no morals, no honor, why would you want to have a child with him? It makes no sense. I mean, I've been on this earth 51 years and I've got nowhere closer to figuring out why a woman would do that. It just defies logic.
And I really don't think that women honestly give it a whole lot of forethought into what the men that she'll meet in the future and how he's going to see that situation. Men are very logical. We are logical, reasonable creatures, generally speaking. This is what men are thinking when we sit down with a woman and we hear the words that come out of her mouth. We're thinking, that piece of trash that you gave babies to had the better version of you. You were younger.
Yep.
You had less miles, less damage, less trauma, and no children. He had the better version of you. And now you expect a high earning, high octane, better quality guy to come along and say, hell yeah.
I'll sign up for that.
This mess.
I'll
clean this all up for you.
As long as they can be independent at the same time, they'll do that too. That's another fun one. I don't get it.
And I know it's going to sting a little bit for ladies to hear that, because it's not quite making you out to be the pretty princesses that the world tells you that you always are, and that your girlfriends lie to you and tell you that you are. But that's honestly, I'm just being honest, that's honestly what most men are thinking. Guys who had to get out there and fight this world and make something of themselves, those guys have options. And they're choosing a woman to take on this dependency, this responsibility, and that your children and all the trauma that you have is going to be a part of that said, process. And so he's going to have to take all this on. Ladies, think about raising children with a man that isn't a good father, who isn't masculine, who can't train your children, lead your children, discipline, be that leader that you need. Do you know how hard that's going to be? Do you know how hard that's going to be to be both of the roles? Even if he is in your child's life, you're going to have to be the lover and the fighter, ladies. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to be the friend and the disciplinarian. And every weekend, ladies, if you have babies with a guy that is trash, even if he's in your child's life, every weekend, tell me if I'm wrong, ladies, every weekend he gets to be the fun parent. How do you think that's going to affect the relationship between you and your child? Is it going to make it easier, or is it going to make it harder? Why would you put that stress on your shoulders, ladies? Why make your lives more difficult? Now, let me really piss off some women. Let me really just piss off some
women. You haven't yet? Okay.
No, I'm about to right
now. Yeah. Crunchy peanut butter time.
Crunchy peanut butter. Here it comes. Ladies, regardless on whether or not you think your ex is an outstanding man or a piece of shit, if your ex wants to be in your child's life and you block that from happening, then you're the piece of shit.
Hands down.
I don't care. Listen to me well. Listen to me well. I don't care how much he pisses you off. I don't care if he's top notch or bottom tier. You chose him. You chose him. You choose who gets between your legs and shoots up the club. You choose what children get brought into this world. It's your choice. He doesn't have a say so. You chose him. A father shouldn't have to fight strangers in court for the right to parent his own child.
Say it again to the people in the back.
A father should not have to fight strangers in court to parent for the right to parent his own child. Some of you out there, some of the ladies out there are master manipulators. You know how to work the systems. You know how to work the courts. You're not a dummy. You're smart, ladies. A lot of you are smart. You lie to the courts. You lie to your kids about their father. And let me say something to the deadbeat mothers. If you're not a deadbeat mother, then this does not apply to you. I'm only talking about the deadbeat mothers. Because if you keep your kids away from a father who wants them in his life, then you are a deadbeat mother. You're the deadbeat, not him. If he wants to be in his child's life, but you keep him, you keep your kids from your father, then you are the deadbeat mother. You can hide behind your lies all day, but one day you are going to have to explain to your children why you hated your ex more than you loved your children. Some of you mothers are so good at manipulation, so good at parental alienation, that your kids become afraid of asking you about their father.
Yeah.
Making a child too scared to ask someone that they love about someone that they love makes you a piece of shit. If you are making your kids so afraid to ask about someone that they love, then you are the piece of shit.
Well, now think about it. Think about it a different way, though. That kid is 50% of him and her. When you call your ex a piece of trash or something like that, you're calling 50% of that child a piece of trash. Women. And again, it happens to men too. I hate that I even have to say those common sense things, that it also happens the other way. But here we are in 2024. Yeah. These women and again, when you look at the statistics on fathers, I mean, how much do you hate your kid to make them a statistic like that? Again, the 90% chance, a higher statistic for running away, dropping out, being in prison, raping, being in poverty is kind of like you did some of that, and then behavior problems, mental issues. Like when you say you play your little games with dad and don't let him have his calls or have his pickup time and take him back to court 24/7, so he has to work 3 jobs in order to exist and try to be there for his kid. What does that say about you? But of course, we're going to glamorize, the tough, it's hard to be a single mom, which is just nonsense. Actually, here's another piece of data, also available on the website. If you look at the per capita because we're always going to equate, most people will try to equate, love or time or whatever to paying child support. When you look at per capita, who pays more times in child support, men or women? Women, hands down, do not pay child support. And I have a personal example of that. My ex-wife got a little shot in there.
I'm sure there's a lot.
But there's a lot. They hands down, the data is that they paid less per capita than their male counterparts. And there's so much other stuff I can get into on that, but we'd be here all day. And again, the fact that I'm giving data that black families were the hands down the best families and being called a racist tells you that that the bar on common sense is pretty low. So I'm gonna have to watch my the data and statistics I give out, because I think the snowflakes and whatnot can't handle it. But here we are.
So sad. So sad.
It's just that stuff is just ridiculous.
This world is full of victims, man. I mean, just all common.
It's someone else's fault.
It's
Well,
always, they'd love to be victims.
I was trying to find it again. There's a lot of data on the website, but there actually, when you're talking about having sex with men and having kids, when you look at the number of partners a woman has, and this is you can equate it to whatever you want to. The data on if a woman has sex with more than one man in their lifetime, then their chances of pair bonding with them goes down big time. And apparently the body count of women, and this is the ones they admit, that's the other part. You can't get women to admit accurate data. And I have a slide on the website for that about, when it's okay to cheat or when it's not okay to cheat. And the same number of women can't decide women to men, men to women. But the body counts of women are going up because of all the free sex and all that. And they think that's what men want ultimately. And unfortunately, a lot of women today, that's all they can offer a man. That's why they have Only Fools and all those websites and first dates and trying to do stuff. And it's like we need to go back to the old morals. I would invite people to go look at older TV shows or movies from the 60s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. When I started doing that, it was very eye-opening of just how things have changed, how far things have changed. And it's not what people think. Everyone's going to have that need. Oh, men were horrible, blah, 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 blah. And of course there were some. There are today. But categorically, women's lives were easier, better. Back then, they made themselves miserable. And the data shows it because what's that number? It's like over 50% or some, the number of women that are sad or on mental meds.
25% on psychiatric medicine.
It's ridiculous. I mean, the numbers are ridiculous. The data is there, which means 75% of them are running around unmedicated. Dun dun. Have to throw that in. That's my joke. Don't call me a racist.
So we covered women who are sleeping with men who they think are trash,
right? And having children with them,
and giving them babies. We covered women who openly say that they hate their baby daddies. We covered women who got married to men who they know he wasn't a good stand-up dude, but had kids with him anyhow. Let's go ahead and talk about women out there because I want to try to cover all the bases. Let's talk about women who have gotten married to a good man and had babies with him, and now they're out there on the dating market. I'm trying to cover all spectrums here. Okay, so here's my thoughts on that. Okay, I want to talk about the women who are divorced that actually married good men, has had kids with them, and for whatever reason, the marriage just didn't work out.
They got sad.
Huh?
They got sad. They were just, he doesn't fulfill all my needs. He's not there. He's not exciting.
Because, despite our best efforts, sometimes she's awesome. Sometimes he's awesome, but you guys are just not awesome together. Sometimes that happens.
Yep.
And, for the women out there who really tried to do the right thing, married a guy who was a really good guy, but for whatever reason, your marriage just didn't work out. I want you specific ladies to know you're still going to have a hard time out there on the open dating market. But I do assure you that your situation won't be weighted as heavily as the other situations. Okay. Make no mistake. Your children are not assets to the next man. They're still liabilities. But when he asks you about your past, about your ex, and you have nothing but respect to say about your ex-man, and you let this new man know that your ex gets to see their kids often, trust me, coming from a man, that new man will notice this, and you will not be judged the same as the other ladies will.
Yeah. Also,
for all those ladies listening who married a great man, had children, and the marriage didn't work out, tell me, how much easier is life for you with a man like that? How much better are things when you both get along and he's someone that you still trust and respect? How much better are things when you know that if you need something, you can pick up the phone call and it's not going to be a battleground? He's a great dad and contributes in a healthy, loving way. Pick better, ladies. Pick better men. There are pieces of trash men out there. We're not denying it. We're
Hands
not
down.
denying
Yep.
that. There are trash on the lady side. There are certainly trash on the men's side. Okay. But pick better, because you're the ones that get to choose. Don't have babies with men who aren't your husband. Don't have babies outside of wedlock. For the rest of you who did, wait until you were married, but you picked poorly, be better. Pick better. Don't give me this, oh, he changed on me BS. Okay. Men don't really change all that much. You guys are the ones that change more. Ask anyone. Once you get married, it's the woman who really tries to change the guy, and the guy is hoping that she never changes. That's pretty much how it is.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear the whole he changed. Guys don't change all that much.
We are who we are.
Ladies, you know damn well that he wasn't the one, and you married him anyways. You know, Mrs. My intuition is superior than men's intuition. You knew. You saw the red flags. You knew he wasn't shit, and you married him anyhow.
Yep.
Okay. So that's my angry, toxic advice.
I know. Have the part at the end.
I threw that one in there for you. All right. You ready for question number 5?
Yeah, let's hit it.
All right. So let me bring you back up here to the front. And it's kind of a long question.
Oh,
Do
boy.
you think that on the dating market that a woman with children is seen the same as a man with children? Meaning, does it hurt the man as much as it hurts the woman if they have children and the other one doesn't?
Is this a question? God, I'm hoping that okay. All right.
With your reaction, what you're saying is that it's pretty damn common sense for men. But I'm asking the question, although I definitely agree. I think it's pretty damn obvious. But for those who may not know, what do you think? Do you think that on the dating market that a woman with children is seen the same as a man with children? Does it hurt the man as much as it hurts the woman if he has children and she doesn't, compared to if she has children and he doesn't? What do you think?
It's actually a kind of a multi-pronged thing. I mean, at the surface level, hands down, the woman having children, although it's common, unless you got your white knight situations, which are getting less and less, thankfully, it obliterates the woman. No man wants to take on someone else's children. That's just how it is. The other way, women will look for men that do have children. However, this is where that multi-pronged thing happens. Statistically, what happens is, the Disney movies where the wicked stepmother comes in fairly often. It's not like the porn. I mean, it gives you much different perspective in the porn movies. How that works. You're like, where is he going with this? But usually the woman, when they get married, the woman then actively tries to not hurt verbally and with actions and deeds the man's children and pump up their own. That's what we see data-wise and anecdotally. So I would say before marriage, it's definitely, men look at women with children as a red flag or as an issue, unless you got your white knight situations. Women, they look because I've heard people say, oh my God, Bob is so good with his kids. I love him. I want to marry him. Then they get married and then they go, I don't like Bob's kids. Got to find some way to get rid of them.
Yeah.
That's what.
So here's my take on it. I think that a man with children is definitely weighed differently than a woman with children. So meaning that if a man has a couple kids, right, and she doesn't, it doesn't weigh the same. It's not as much of a burden for her. And here's why. I agree with everything that Dwayne said. I'm going to add to it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Dwayne, and everyone would probably just agree with this, I'm sure. Okay.
Of course.
Both if a man is childless and he gets with a woman with 2 kids, he's going to be putting his time into the care and things like that. Flipping it around, if a woman is childless and she gets with a man who has 2 kids, she's going to be putting her time. But here's the big difference. Okay. If a man who is childless is dating a woman with 2 kids and all 4 of them go out to dinner, who pays?
Oh, the man, of course.
Okay. If a man is childless and a woman has, I'm sorry, if a man has 2 kids,
right?
If a man has 2 kids and a woman is childless and all 4 of them go out to dinner, who pays?
The man. I mean, every answer is the man.
And there you have it. That's
Equality.
why it's not weighed the same. Because both the man and the woman in the both scenarios have to put their time in, but only one of the 2 scenarios will he financially have to fund that. So if you got a guy who is making 50 grand a year, let's just say he's making right down the middle of what the average American male makes, 51, 52,000 a year. Okay. Right. Let's call it $1,000 a week, 52 grand a year. For every, if he has a kid and she has a kid, okay, every dollar that's spent on children, half of it's going to be only half of it's spent on his kids. Right. But the other half of his income is going to be spent on raising the legacy of another man's child.
Exactly.
And that's not easy to digest as a man. So I don't think that it's weighed the same. Now, and here's a little bit of hypocrisy too.
A little bit?
Yeah. Well,
I think we've been
a whole bit, right?
You need to go back and watch the show.
You will literally hear women and see them on the dating profiles come out and say, "Oh God, that she has children, but she doesn't date men who also have children."
Right. Yep.
So her expectation is that she wants a man who doesn't have kids, but she knows that she does.
Right.
It's very similar to how I feel whenever I see a woman who is obese. She's overweight. And she will only date guys that are in shape. But she doesn't ever go to the gym. It's the delusion that we have presented to women, and I'm referring to more modern Western women, that make them think that their sexual marketplace value or value to begin with is higher than it actually is.
Yeah.
The delusion really is astounding sometimes. And guys are looking back and they're shaking their head and going, well,
that's why they're checking out. They're done trying to rationalize. I mean, if you look at the millennial men, was it 60 some odd percent of millennial men have been on dates. They're not married. They're not getting houses. They're not getting with women to do anything because they've seen, of course, what the mothers have done to their dads. And they're like, I'm not doing this. I mean, that was the instructions I have to my sons. Actually, I did it today. Don't get married. Don't have kids.
You're teaching your kids that?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. I mean, me and my oldest son, we're having that conversation today. Do not get married. Do not have children because oh God, the numbers and what happens, I mean, can financially and emotionally ruin a man. And I would never, that's one of the reasons. I mean, if you go to the website and see my ending thing, that is a promise I made to my boys that they would not go through what I went through.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I didn't love, I mean, I love my kids. So why would I, not advise, not, teach them, hey, this is your biggest threat out there. When you look at it, if you think about a 6-spinner shooter and the percentages of, getting everything stolen from you, 5 of the 6 rounds are filled up playing Russian roulette.
Yeah.
Why would you play on those odds?
I see your rationale and reasoning.
Not all women do that. Well, you know what? How many times do you stick your hand in a viper pit and get bit? Every once in a while, you're not going to get bit, but the rest of them, you're going to get bit and die. Don't play the game. And that's, again, millennials, 60 some odd percent of millennials, they've listened. They've woke up and they've said, we're not doing this anymore.
Here is my next question.
See.
Hold on. Did we do question? You know what? Question number 6. Hold on. Okay, so I actually have one question in between those 2 questions. So let's hold off on that last question.
Okay.
It looks like I skipped one.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm doing the best I can to produce my own show. The next question I have for you, Dwayne, is how did we get to this situation where there's so many women raising children alone? So we know the data, we know the stats,
right?
But what do you how did we get here? What happened to what dominoes had to fall in order for us to get to why there's so many women raising children alone?
Well, the racist comments I made earlier about how the government came in and subsidized women to do just that. Again, the forms, the documents say there has to be no man in the house for this to happen. We allowed women to live on easier street than they already had it, and use the government to subsidize it. And well, men did not stand up and vote the right way, and fight back and refuse, getting. And there were so many things that could have happened, but the dominoes. It really, I mean, I say that first wave feminism. I say it like at a high level that it was a good thing, but it really wasn't, because that was when women got suffrage rights, voting rights. For those that don't, pay too much attention to what suffrage means, that was really the beginning.
A whole podcast in itself.
It's a whole podcast in itself. And if you look at the data and the statistics, I mean, again, all available on the website, you see how those things happen, making no-fault divorce the law of the land and giving women that ticket out, making sex free. I mean, changing those values where women could do whatever. You look at the data, women can't make smart decisions. Everyone's going to get mad about that, but show me in the data where I'm wrong. I mean, again, everyone has an argument against it. That's an argument, not an opinion. Would love to see it. I'll, retract any statement, but I mean, just these, I have more, but these two books alone, and these are not, color coded. This is just documentation and statistical data from reputable resources. And just all we've collected, it just shows that women don't make good decisions. And we can go back to when women did get suffrage rights, when they started working, there's a number of videos on that from that time period that talks about the challenges, and then the changing moral structure. But I would say the biggest bullet was no fault divorce and the Mary Tyler Moore generation. Those two things did more destruction. And then, of course, the government saying, we're here to help you out. We're here from the government. We're here to help. Those things destroyed it. And then men not standing up. I mean, to put some blame on the men. Men should not have been like, sure thing, but they were more interested in getting along. Of course, the people that passed it to vote. I mean, Ronald Reagan said that the single worst decision he ever made in his life was passing no-fault divorce. That's his document. And it is. That was one of the worst things that ever happened.
So I'm going to try to give my answer and not use the same ones that you did, which you always make it hard because you always come up with such good stuff. But I remember listening to an MOA podcast, and you know who Rollo Tomasi is?
No, never heard of him.
No. Okay. So there was a guy named Rollo Tomasi on the MOA podcast, and he was saying that since the sexual revolution, we have systematically conditioned and re-engineered society for women, and I should say for about 4 generations, to distrust men.
Yep.
Simple as that. And it really came with like the advent of hormonal birth control, to the earlier point you were making.
Yeah.
So women have had more options. They can have sex and not have to worry about getting pregnant, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to worry as much as women used to have to worry about getting pregnant with this guy, or now she has, now she's thinking, I have more choices. I can still have sex with this guy, but if he's not the right one, then I've got a fail-safe, which is either abortion, or I've got hormonal birth control. So maybe I can get with this guy over here now. And you want
hypergamy.
Yeah.
It's hypergamy. I mean, again, everyone's on the website too, but look up hypergamy. There's a video that I have on there that tree branching gives a great explanation, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so it's okay. So, before birth control and abortions, women were always very, very concerned about who they had intercourse with, because she could have sex with someone. So she's not just giving her body up to some lazy, he ain't worth shit kind of guy, right? Because she might have a baby with he ain't shit kind of guy. Right.
I have videos from the 50s and 60s. These are great, that teach women how to date. And I've actually watched them. I should put them up on Pissed Off Parent. I think I put 1 or 2 up there from that time period. It's not, the 2000 guy making a video about 19. This is stuff in the 50s and 60s. And the stuff that they teach girls and guys about dating, I'm just like, we need to bring this back.
Right.
It's respect, how to do that, how to evaluate a guy, how to, be a good picker.
Yeah,
So
basically how
it's
to
amazing.
pick the right guy. We were actually teaching our daughters how to pick the highest quality guy. Our fathers were invested and took a vested interest
Oh yeah.
in helping her choose the right guy. And a lot of women back there weren't getting married unless what? She had to bring that dude home for her brothers and her father to vet
Exactly.
that guy, because guys know other guys the way that women know other women.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies, you know it. You guys are so good with your intuition that if you're in a crowded room and another woman walks in, you don't even have to shake her hand. You don't even have to speak to her. And
Yep.
you already know you don't like that bitch. How do you know that? You already know. And
Yep.
then there's some women where you go, you know what? I really like her. So guys know other guys.
Yep.
So then you had the liberation of sex. Women have birth control. They don't have to worry about getting pregnant. If they did get pregnant, they have abortions. They don't have to even ask the guy whether or not
Mhm.
it's okay if I have
Yeah.
said abortion. She can have it all on her own now. There's so many. There's a morning after pill. There's all kinds of stuff. And so
Yep.
what happens is women get out there and they start sleeping around, and that brings up their miles, and guys don't want that. So guys are like, eh. You want to know why marriage rates have plummeted since 1971? Divorce rates have
Mhm.
skyrocketed because of one thing, which is really the advent of hormonal birth control, the sexual revolution, and all the societal changes that have happened in the wake of all of that.
Yep.
And one of those changes was the distrust of men, also, because we're putting women into the workplace. We're putting them into like a societal structure that's already pre existing, which was a masculine hierarchy that women now enter into. It used to be that women needed the man. She needed a man for provisioning, protection, and
Mhm.
parental investment. Those are like sort of the long-term security aspects of what women need for their sexual strategy.
Mhm.
Then there's the alpha side. Is he hot? Does he turn me on? Does he lay down the good eggplant? Is he fun in bed? Is he someone that I really want to have babies with? That's the arousal alpha side of a woman.
Right.
The thing is from say 1965 all the way up to 2024 right now.
Mhm.
Women have more or less covered that. They've got provisioning, protection, parental investment down. And if they don't, the perception is that they do. So
Oh yeah.
they can go and get their own money. They got their own bag. I don't need a man. I want a man, but I don't need a man. And even though they actually do need men, I don't want to go down
Oh,
that
there.
road, but they actually do. But the thing is that there's this pervasive idea that it's all about the want
Mhm.
and it's not about the need
The
anymore,
feels.
because women can provide for their own long-term security. The beta buck side of it has at least perceptually been taken care of. So anything that a man could provide for women in the long term, whether it's babies or whether it's provisioning or money, still important, but not as important to a woman who's making $500,000 a year on OnlyFans, or she's making her own money. I don't need a man, but I want a man, and that's the idea. So, what is the man that she wants?
She doesn't even
She
know.
wants She wants the Jason Momoa. She wants the Justin Waller. She wants the guy that who is 6 feet tall with six pack abs, has the big Johnson downstairs and knows how to use it. That's more or less what women want. But the guy that they
Mm.
need, they don't need that guy anymore because they can take care of themselves. It's the
So they
long term
say.
security aspect of it. And the problem is this is the problem, is when women say you have that conflict, it's actually because that women say, I don't really need this MFer. I can get along without him. I can divorce him before I'm 40, and then I can go out and have like a Stella got her groove
Fun.
back, like a eat, pray, love kind of thing.
Mhm.
There's always these fail safes in these options that were always there, even from within marriage. So when you see this sort of power struggle, like he ain't all that, he's all right, That's her saying that I can take care of all the things that he's supposed to be taken care of. And that's when she starts making more money than he does. Maybe they started equal, but then she gets like a raise or a promotion or something like that. That is the number one, Dwayne.
Oh yeah.
That's the number one forward. Here it comes. Depictor of divorce. When she starts making more money, when she starts making more money than him, here comes that freaking divorce paper. It's when women start making more money than the guy because it's independence, Dwayne. But it's also the lack of respect, because the guys that she's working with for 40 hours a week make way more money than the guy that she's with. So now the guy she's with is a liability. Now he's a sandbag. Now he's basically another kid, another mouth to feed. And even if he's still making money, he's not making that much. This is just the way that the machine has evolved, that women need a guy to be the provider, the protector, or the parentally invested, right? Well, if she can do that all by herself, then what does she need this MFer for? So the power dynamic gets switched in that. And I think that's where a lot of the friction between men and women are at right now, because if she can't trust this guy, if she can't trust him to make the money, if she can't trust him to lead in the family, if she can't trust him to be the more dominant partner in the relationship, then she's going to fill that role. She's going to be the man. Women have become, listen to me, women have become the men that they want to marry. That's why you see that there's more and more women that aren't getting married at all, and they'll blame it on the guy, saying that, well, guys ain't shit, and I don't want to get with this guy because I already make more money than this guy does, and what I really want to do is I want to bang Jason Momoa. So really what they're saying and really what they're doing is that they're looking at this and they've kind of turned themselves into the masculine ideal. I would marry me if I were a man. That's the kind of mentality they have. They're a woman already, and they've made themselves into this masculine ideal. And so that's when you hear them say, and probably without ever really knowing it, is that I don't need a man. I just want a man. I just don't want a man around. I just want a man to come around and bang me and leave. More or less, that's really what it comes down to. Because if she doesn't feel anyways that she needs that guy for anything other than her most immediate gratification at that point, then she's not going to have a guy. So that power dynamic right there, Dwayne, is if she can provide for her own long-term security and you can't, then you're just another child and you've been regulated down. You're not a husband anymore. You're now at the level of her children, the level of your children. In fact, women will actually say that. Men are just big children anyways. You'll hear them say it. Men are just big children anyways. You'll hear that, like, female comedians will say this all the time. They're just big kids anyhow, like just to demean men.
I hate when women say that about me, because I am not a child. I
mean, there's no proof of that behind Dwayne at all.
There's no proof. I don't know what.
Blasphemy.
This is a lie. Well, why don't you bring it home for him on that topic? Because I'm sure there's going to be the women that say, oh, no. We have, on a previous podcast, you provided data that women, when they go looking for a man that's like 1 through, I think, the top, they look at the top 5% of men, the rich, successful, handsome, 6 foot, blah, 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 6 inches down there, the sixes and all that, whatever. We saw your in body the other week.
You got me.
I got you on that one. But that's why, women that if women are arguing with the information you provided, go to the other information. This is where all these statistics and data just come in to it's not personal opinion. There's just so much data. Women only want the top 5%, and the 95% that aren't in there are invisible. And we have the data and the stat. All the data is there for it, from the Tinders and the Bumbles and the Rumbles and the whatever ones that they have on there. And the thing is, the guys are the 5%ers know it, and they're never going to, be with a woman.
Yeah.
Of course, I go tinfoil hat, and I go the whole. This is where another reason I think women are delusional. They all say, I just want a man. I don't need a man. Blah blah blah. But then they all want to get married. And I've actually had this conversation. Pull up a marriage certificate. The words love and all that stuff. None of that is in a marriage certificate. It's not in there. It's not a personal opinion. It's not racist. It's not in there at all. It's all about land title rights and basically giving ownership to the woman to treat a man however she wants to. That's all marriage is. And men have figured it out. We get told, oh, just marry me and we'll be in love. The marriage certificate. I did a blog years ago on and just dove into what marriage is and what it's not and all that. And when I tell people about it, they just look at me sideways. I'm like, look at it. Just there's nothing in the marriage contract that talks about love. Nothing in there does it. But women continually say it. That's all they want to do is get married. There's no point in it. Passport bros. I heard about that phrase a while back, and what it is American women have men in America do not want American women at all, and there's a million reasons why. And what they're doing is they're becoming passport bros, and they're going to countries that are more conservative and finding women there, making them sign a prenup, posting up, and all that fun stuff, and then doing that because that there they have an opportunity to have an equal partner. And that's the funny thing is that when women talk equality, they're not talking about equality. They're talking about they want to have a higher position than you and treat you poorly. And it's a continual struggle. But what's another thing, I'm going off the delusional woman thing, is they say these words and like that, I can't remember the movie. They go, I don't think you know what that word means. They use words like equality, love,
misogyny,
equal. Yeah. Oh God.
Narcissism. They don't even know the definition is fully of a lot of those words.
Yeah, and they say these words, and I'm one of those people that I want you to live in the world you create. You'll always, for decades, I've said that to all my wives. I would say, live in the world you created, and I'll point out, this is your words, this is your behavior. If I were to do 1/10 of what you did to me, you would have lost your shit, and it would have been over with, and you would have been right. But you get to do all this to me, but I can't say anything. I'm mean or I'm whatever. Anyway, I'm going off on a diatribe.
So I'm just thinking about like how we got to where we're at right now and why women are thinking this way. And let me just be honest. And let me also tell ladies, the cause and effect of things, because there's always a price that you're going to have to pay for things. Ladies, I understand from an evolutionary standpoint why you would do the things that you do. If you're a woman and you have the ability to do it, it makes sense. You're about to have risk-free sex. You don't need a man. We get it. Like, totally understand the concept. The problem is what happens is that later on in life, when you do want to have kids, you're not going to have the ability to do so. And then this weird thing happens, just like in football. In football, for those of you who know the sport, they've committed to a 10-year contract to Patrick Mahomes because he's 23 years old. But they won't commit to a future Hall of Famer like Aaron Rodgers, who just signed with the Jets. It was a 1-year deal because even though he's good, even though they're both good, but even though Aaron Rodgers is a future Hall of Famer, we all know he's near the end. So they will not commit to him. So these women who are now 35 years old, there is a high chance that you're not going to get the commitment from the alpha male that you're looking for, from the high status man that you're looking for, assuming that you want the guy that most women want, those guys who have options.
5%ers.
If you're over 35 and over 40 years old, it's unlikely you're going to get that kind of man. It's possible you could. Some women do. It's also possible that you win the Powerball. It happens every day. Someone wins.
Yeah.
But you have to understand it, that from the high status man that you're looking for, you have to understand it from his point of view because of this thing that you've overlooked. This is what you're overlooking, ladies, which is that the main reason that men marry, especially nowadays in a world where it is stupid financial decision for a man to get
Yeah.
married. The main reason why men get married is to have families. And if you can't offer a man children, or your value as a woman, your value for a long-term committed relationship like marriage becomes lower. Doesn't become nil. You're not worth less. It just, your value becomes lower in the mind of marriage for most men. Not all, but most men. Okay.
Let's be real here, though. If you're, riding the sausage carousel, what man's going to want you? And that's usually in the 35, 40 range and higher. That's usually, your body count is through the roof. I mean, you rode the sausage carousel. No man wants you.
Ladies, look for yourself. Look for yourself. Look what the marriage rates are for women 40 and up. And if men do not have interest in committing to you long term, then what are their motives for dealing with you? Well, we all know. Ask women out there dating how many times they get asked for hookups compared to being a wife. So that's what I'm saying.
Also, what are women offering to men? I mean, back in the 40s, 50s, and earlier, women came to the table with, education. Of course, one of the big things, youth and beauty, the ability to have children. That's a primary driver for especially younger men. But they could be a partner. It takes two to put, the shoulder in the oxen to, plow the fields, sometimes actually. And what do women offer today? You're coming to me, rode hard, put away wet, sausage carousel, dumber in a box of rocks. Tell me how your kids come first and I come 20th after that. Loud mouth, and then they use the words "I'm feminine," or this is where I go and they don't know what the words they're using. They'll say "I'm feminine" and then do some of the most unfeminine crap I've ever seen. That just blows.
Or what they'll say is "I'm feminine for the right guy."
Oh God,
that one I love the most. Conditional femininity. That's my favorite. But let's jump into number 7. So number 7 is kind of a long question. So Dwayne, why do women believe they still have a chance to find a high value man even though she has children? And what is the number one reason why women are having such a hard time finding the man that they want? So there's a 2-part question. Why do they believe that they still have a really good chance? They still have a chance, but what they believe is they have a superior chance to find a high value man, even though she has kids, even though she's over 40. And what do you think is the number one reason why women are having such a hard time finding a man that they want?
Part of it is the other ASPCA recipients feeding into their delusion. For those who don't know the ASPCA, it's an animal, cat owners. Just throwing that out there, get a little jab in there. That their friends telling them, "Oh, you're special, you're dynamite." I mean, they're telling Lizzo she's spectacular and stunning and brave. And yeah,
and beautiful.
And beautiful, yeah. But yeah, they have other women that are delusional, and they have that hive mentality, and they lying to their friends. They have simps, white knights, and other male idiots. For the ones that say we never talk bad about men, here's a comment right here. White knights and simps that are just stupid. That will, and the only reason they're doing it is because they want to get laid. That's it. They have no, and there's tests you can do to prove that out pretty quickly. Stand there with your best BFF male friend and go, "Yeah, I just broke up with Bobby, and I'm feeling kind of lonely and vulnerable, and I want to have sex." He'll be over there within 2 seconds. Anyway, that's just one quick test. Let's see here. God, there's just so many things here. They again, a lot of it in society, they have all these safety nets. They're a lot of us that are just being lied to by society. They're stunning and brave, and they're being, now one of the things they're being told is their body count doesn't matter. When I read that's becoming kind of a leading thing now, that their body count doesn't matter. We're in clown world at that point. If a woman came to me and said I had a high body count, what do you think of me? I would go, trash. Done. Never. I would never. Other guys would hit it and quit it. I'm not that kind of guy. But again, we're talking about how to have a long-term relationship with a man. I mean, again, a guy 10 will sleep with a 0 woman if the opportunity arises. It's going to happen. But will he have a relationship with her? Never. It ain't gonna happen. That happens in Hallmark and in different movies and stuff like that.
The
Yeah,
Lifetime channel.
Lifetime. Yeah, that's where that. And once you get like educated and the blinders. If you ever seen the movie They Live, he puts on the glasses and now you can see the aliens for what they are. When you get educated and learn some of these the data and statistics, and you start watching movies. I was watching Breaking Dawn, the stupid vampire movie, and I just laughed at the entire thing because it fed into all the delusions these girls believe, but whole different topic. But once you start seeing what society feeds people, you get it and you can recognize it. But so many people today don't.
So I'm going to give a hot take on why I think women are having such a hard time finding the man that they want. I think that women's greatest enemy, and I'm talking about the women's greatest enemy in the context of the sexual marketplace. What is the one thing that most prevents women from getting the relationships that they want with the men that they want to have them with?
Themselves?
It's very simple. Yeah, it's very simple, ladies. In a word, women's greatest enemy is your pride.
Oh,
Your
God,
greatest enemy is your pride. Do you know who Dr. Orion Taraban is?
The name does not sound familiar.
He runs a podcast called Psych Hacks, I think. But anyway, so Dr. Orion Taraban talks about this in one of his podcasts called Women's Greatest Enemy. And ladies, everything you want in respect to men is on the other side of that pride. Dr. Taraban alluded to this fact in his series, How to Get Any Man You Want. I think he had a series about how to do that. And let me tell you, ladies, pride is very, very cold company. It will not keep you warm at night. And in today, what I'm going to be talking about is three main reasons that Orion Taraban was saying of why your pride keeps you single. So first and foremost, your pride tells you, talking to the ladies, your pride tells you that you are the prize and you are not. At least not after you turn 30. At 30, the average man's sexual marketplace value exceeds the average woman's sexual marketplace value for the very first time, and the gap only increases as time goes. So I'm not going to get too deep into it. We can talk about this another time because I don't want to keep this podcast on too long. But here's what I mean. If you were to ask 1 million people on the open dating market, referring to a sexual marketplace value, meaning that how attractive you are to the opposite sex. If you had an 18-year-old girl and an 18-year-old boy, who has the higher sexual marketplace value?
Girl. Hands
if you
down.
had a 21-year-old girl and a 21-year-old boy, who has the highest sexual marketplace value?
Girl.
If you had a 25-year-old girl, 25-year-old boy, girl.
They're starting to...
Right.
Before 18 and 18, it was this. Now it's certain every...
That's right.
Yeah.
Who has the highest sexual marketplace value, a 30-year-old woman or a 30-year-old boy? Or man, sorry.
If anything at all, they're equal. If anything at all.
Okay, there you go.
It's probably...
And that's what you're saying. It's now caught up. Okay?
Yeah.
Who has a higher sexual marketplace value, a 35-year-old man or a 35-year-old woman?
No, the man.
Who has a higher sexual marketplace value, a 40-year-old woman or a 40-year-old man?
I'm going to say man. We'll just put infinity behind it.
Okay. And so, as I keep going up in 5-year increments, will a woman's sexual marketplace value ever again overtake a man's?
No. I'll use the old adage that's kind of mean, is that, women age like milk, men age like fine wine.
And it not only will not overtake it, but to your point, it exponentially gets more.
Oh, yeah.
So a 50-year-old woman and a 50-year-old man are not nearly the same on the open dating market, the open marketplace value. Okay.
Yep.
That's what I mean. Believing that you are the prize as a woman is incentrically, and not just the prize relatively and temporarily. It's incentrically pride. It's this pride that motivates you to squander your most fertile and attractive years, the years in which you would be most able to secure a committed relationship with a high value guy, on either having fun or prioritizing your career, you've conflated the privileged moment that you passed through with your inherent self-worth. And this is why you think that there's no hurry. Because once the prize, always the prize.
Go to my website and find a video from a woman that says exactly that. There's a video I have. Yeah, sorry.
This sense of pride also stops women from initiating. Like, why would I? I don't have to. I can make anything happen for myself, or that's the man's job. In any way, it will happen when it happens. You hear them say all those things. I have plenty of time. That's what they think. Okay, just go back 60 years. Men didn't pursue women. It was the women who pursued men. It was women who dragged men, sometimes kicking and screaming, to the altar. And they did this because they are the ones on a tighter timeline. For better or worse, women don't have the same luxury of waiting around as men do. Back then, everyone understood that if a woman wanted a relationship, she had to get out there and make it happen. And this sense of urgency has been disrupted by the twin beliefs: I am the prize and I have plenty of time, generated by pride.
Oh, yeah.
The fact of the matter is that this is going to hurt. The fact of the matter
crunchy peanut butter.
Man, it's unbelievable.
Very crunchy.
I'm waiting for my haters in the comment section. The fact of the matter, ladies, is that it has never been easier in the history of the world for you ladies to get the access to the men that you want relationships with the most. With social media, you can find the hottest, richest, most eligible bachelors anywhere in the world and slide right into their DMs. And if your pictures are good enough, you actually might get a response. Now, that won't be enough to seal the deal, but you can at least get your foot in the door. Now, what you do with that opportunity is up to you. And yet, even with this unprecedented access to these high-value men, which allows you to safely and freely and instantly connect with almost anyone on the planet, you still don't initiate. And this makes it very difficult to sympathize with women who are single and don't want to be. Like, get off your ass and do something about it. If you're unemployed and you don't want to be, then make it your job to get a job. If you're single and you don't want to be, then make it your job to get a relationship. Expecting that the relationship that you want is just going to fall into your lap is as arrogant as expecting that your dream job is just somehow going to materialize into your life. Okay. Yeah. So the second way that pride is obstructing women's success is that it's causing them to disparage male sexuality. A lot of women even seem to find male sexual interest insulting. Okay. Yeah. Like, men should be appreciating the beauty of your mind and the depths of your souls rather than your physical appearance. You think that our attraction has little to do with you, like the person inside your body. And in that case, if we just want sex, then we just be better off hiring a prostitute. That's what they say. That's what they think. Right. The attitude is basically that sex and physical attraction are beneath you, which is a form of pride. Now, guys, before I go any further, if you guys don't mind liking and sharing, we have a lot of people listening right now. This is a great podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe to the show. Also, I have my own IG pages now on YouTube and on Instagram. It's The Big Show by Jimmy Smith. If you guys wouldn't mind liking those as well, so that way when I post, you guys will see it. I appreciate it. But let me jump right back in. Okay, so this is going to hurt some feelings. I know it. But ladies, you have to understand that if men did not experience sexual, this is going to hurt.
It's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt. Here comes crunchy peanut butter. Ladies,
peanut butter.
You have to understand that if men didn't experience sexual attraction to you, then the vast majority of men would have nothing to do with you. I'm sorry. I know that hurts.
Are you saying like poetryfans.com is not doing as good as onlyfans.com? Is that what you're trying to say? I thought it's poetry and how to tear down an engine. I thought Does
Vast majority would have nothing to do with you. And this is because the majority of men, generally speaking, can get all of their own other needs met more cheaply, more easily, and more enjoyable with other men. Dr. Taraban
no homo.
goes on to say that I would rather talk about quantum mechanics and Shakespearean literature with other men. I'd rather problem solve with and confide in other men. I'd rather hang out with and have fun with other men. I'd rather look.
That's certain.
Do you see, ladies, without my sexual attraction, which is a heterosexual man being primed for feminine traits more generally, I might only rarely have dealings with women in the normal case courses of events. And this is really how humans have organically or organized themselves across culture throughout history. Men generally spend their time with other men. Women generally spend their time with other women. And there's some social commingling at the end of the day, fair enough. But rather than see male sexual interest through the lens of your pride as something beneath you, ladies, you can actually see it as an opportunity to gain access to a particular guy who may not yet have any other reasons for dealing with you. And I get that you want to be seen for who you are deep down inside. I understand it. But spoiler alert, we can't effing see who you are deep down inside if what we see is your body. And if we didn't see your body, we probably wouldn't be making the effort to see anything else.
Okay, women know this. Okay, I'm sorry. If they're arguing one bit against this,
is this not common sense?
This is common sense because, and let me break it down here, is when you go to OnlyFans, Tumble, Rumble, all those websites, does the girl picture, is it this all the time, not the hairy chest, or is it this? Every single time the tatas are hanging out. I mean, come on. If women are like, oh, it's not the way my mind, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
They know this cognitively down deep somewhere. They have to know this. This is the part that gets me personally frustrated because you can't look at this and not see it for what it is. But then women are like, I'm confused. I don't understand. Why do they only care? When you're throwing your hoo-haws out all the time and that's it, that's all you have to offer.
And what's more, ladies, is that you have to remember that we can hear what comes out of your mouth.
Oh, God.
Now, I can appreciate that unwanted sexual interest is awkward and uncomfortable. I get it. However, if the first thing that comes out of your mouth in response to my attraction is criticism, judgment, and shame, I don't think I really want to know who you are deep down inside. That what's just on the outside is distasteful enough.
Yeah.
And the third and final reason why women's pride is keeping them single is that women's in the sense of their pride is their contempt for anything related to domestic duties. Cooking, cleaning, childcare. They'll just hire a maid, just hire a nanny. You think ladies today, and I'm referring to Western ladies think today that this is low value, degrading work.
Yeah.
Work that in any case would prevent her from fulfilling what is apparently her true calling in life, which is being an employee. The same women who insist that they could never, ever be obedient to a man spend the majority of their lives being obedient to their often male employers. They trade family for a paycheck. This is the pride that cuts off the nose to spite the face.
Yeah.
Ladies, you need to closely examine what is actually so distasteful to you about domestic activities. I recently watched a podcast in which a very attractive woman was asked whether she would ever do her man's laundry, and she shuddered with revulsion. She's like, oh, It was like the question triggered some trauma, and this woman was transported to 100 years back, where she was in smack in the middle of Handmaid's Tale, where a simple act of service was the gateway to patriarchal oppression. It's not, ladies.
More words I don't understand.
It's laundry. It's just laundry, which thanks to modern technology built by men, is literally the easiest of all the household chores to do.
They're going down to the creek.
The river rank. Huh?
Yeah, they go down to the creek to scrub it out with lye soap.
You're not down at the river minutes with a washboard, scrubbing out the stains with a lye you rendered from pig fat. You're moving the clothes from the hamper to the washer and pushing a button. Laundry is not your enemy. It's your idea of laundry that is your enemy. And this goes for most of the other domestic activities. Dr. Orion Taraban says that the key to getting the relationship that you want with the man you want to have it with is to be useful. And in order for you to be useful, you have to, listen, in order, ladies, for you to be useful, you have to be used. Now, I know that stings. Your pride will shudder at that, but that's a fact. The good news is that as long as you exercise good discernment, you'll be rewarded for being used. It's just like your job, because you allow other people to use your time and your skills and your expertise. You are compensated for that with money. If you did not allow people to use you, you would not get paid. The same is true for relationships. If you want a high value relationship, you must allow yourself to be used, and to be used in a way that those who are paying, i.e. the men you want to have a relationship with, want to use you. It's not a awful word. And keep this in mind. No. Keep this in mind. If something is not useful, then it's just decoration. So ladies, if you don't want to be useful, then you damn well better be decorative. And the fact of the matter is that
I'm gonna get a shot in here. In the Bible, women are called to be a helpmate. Helpmate. Look it up.
If you don't want to be used, then you better be decorative. And the truth is that most of you are not attractive enough to be decorative. And
and that time runs out when you hit the wall.
And honestly, if you were attractive enough to be decorative, even if you were, you might not like it. Why? Because what do decorations do? Nothing. They sit nice and quiet up on a shelf where they belong, attesting to the reflective status of the man who bought them. So if you want a relationship with a man who isn't primarily decorative, then you have to allow yourself to be used by him. And if not, then you are useless. And the world will pass you by. The things that make a man's life easier and better are not beneath you. They are, in fact, your ticket in. So those are the three ways that pride is standing in your way, ladies. If you resolve these issues, and you too will be able to have the relationship that you want with the men that you want to have them with.
Well, if you want to have a long-term relationship, I mean, it goes so much further. There's so many parts to unpack. Women are like, oh, we want to get married and partner, blah, blah, blah. And then, he's doing X, Y, Z. And then she gets all whatever over, making dinner or folding the laundry or cleaning. It's like, aren't you guys working on you throw the logic right back at them. Aren't you guys building an empire, and you're a team and it's a partnership? And yet you're not going to do your part of it. I mean, when you're building something, there's different people that are part of it. And some people don't have sometimes would be considered the glamorous job. It blows my mind the pushback I'll see from people on, well, I do the laundry one as a trigger one. Cause if you think about it logically, you're not going down to the creek. You're not using lye soap. It's literally 5 minutes of moving something from one thing that's paid for, usually by the man, to another thing that's usually paid for by the man, who then gets hung up, usually paid for by the man. It just, and then they think they've cured cancer, and it's some big deal, and we should worship them for this basic what. You're just like, I don't like go to work every day, or when I mow the lawn or clean out the whatever. I'm like, look at me, I can't believe this or can't believe. It blows my mind. And these women are delusional. They don't see it. And I don't know. I've tried for decades. I don't get them to understand it. They'll come up with, usually easily hypocritical statements back and forth, like, my man doesn't do anything. And that's another thing. Oh God, cut me off whenever. But they always use absolutes, and you see it all the time. Like, well, raising children. Well, I did it on my own, or they get that wrong too. But they'll always forget all the contributions the man makes, which is again that form of pride, and they'll discount or mentally just remove everything they've done. They're like, I'm the number one person here. And I mean, my first wife, that was classic. I mean, it was a traditional. I worked, she did not work. And she would say things like, well, all you do is work. I do everything else. And we've seen videos and pictures of that handiness that she's provided. So there you go. And I mean, it get me off in a whole other personal rant.
She was a whole mess right there.
Woo, I know, I can pick them.
Boy.
The thing is, men don't change. Women do. When I first married her, things were okay. And then the woohoo happened. And then it just, degraded. But a whole different podcast and a thing.
So
but pride.
We covered a lot today. We covered a lot of topics, a lot of issues. We answered all the questions you're seeing right now on the screen. I hope that it really helped people. I hope that people have a better understanding of why we got to where we got, what the effects are, what the outcomes are, how and why men are not choosing to marry, why women are also not choosing to marry, and what the implications of that are. I honestly think, and I don't have the tinfoil hat as much as Dwayne does, but I tell you, Dwayne, I can't say that Dwayne is right, but I will say that if he is, this is kind of how it would transpire. So all you got to do is separate the man and the woman. All you got to do is make masculine men, more feminine. And if someone wants to come in and take over America, the strongest country on the planet, then you'll have a bunch of people who will just stand by and just let it happen.
Are you reading my diary? I think you're reading my diary.
Because 100 years ago, you would never be able to walk in here and demand anything. There'll be strong men standing up and fighting evil. And are we seeing that now? Are we seeing strong men? Are we seeing men fighting evil? There are definitely some. I'll stand by you, brother. I'll stand by you and fight the evil. I'll be out there with my sword and shield and fighting for our country should it be invaded. But I think that, masculine, good men are starting to become more of a dying breed. Do we all not agree to that? And it's not the man's fault by himself. There is a combination of things. And hopefully today kind of shared why social media and why the government's influence on families has corroded the nuclear family to where it's at today. And it's a shame. Let's go to the final thoughts. Let's close this thing up. So here's my thoughts. Parents are among the most important people in young children's lives. Parents include both mothers and fathers, as well as other caregivers who act as parents. From birth, children rely on parents to provide them with the care that they need to be happy and healthy and to grow and to develop well. Historically, mothers have received more research attention than fathers, and mothers have more often been characterized as children's primary caregivers, whereas fathers have been more characterized as the children's playmates. However, research now suggests that fathers play very important roles in child development, and the stats of the children who have both mother and father in a child's life is far superior than the stats of children who are raised by mothers only. Fathers are not just helpers for mothers, they are important to children in their own right. For example, children with supportive fathers have higher levels of social competence, better peer relationships. Children whose fathers provide them with learning materials, fathers provide, they speak with them frequently to perform better in school. They have more advanced language skills. Fathers can serve those roles even when they don't even live with their child. Regardless of whether they live together, children who have regular positive contact with their father tend to regulate their emotions better than children who have no contact with their father. And the reasons why fathers are important in a child's life are multifaceted and deeply impactful. Fathers' influence is not just complementary to that of mothers, but they stand as a vital pillar in the comprehensive development of your children. If you are a father, do your very best to be a part of your children's lives. If you are a mother and the father of your children want to be in your children's lives, don't stand in the way. Don't use the kids as a way to weaponize the battle you and him have. Your relationship with him has zero bearing on his relationship with his children. I I don't care how bad, ladies, I don't care how bad your ex treated you. I don't care how you feel about him. Open yourself to the reality that your ex can be both a horrible partner to you, but also a great dad to his children. Open yourself to that possibility. Both of those can exist together. If you love your children as much as you claim to, then don't stand in the way of them and their father. And for all the women listening who have children and have kept them from their father, you can stop acting like you're the better parent, because we all know that a good parent doesn't keep a child from the other parent out of hate towards them. Guys, I want to thank you all for tuning in for another of today's episode of The Big Show, hosted by me, Jimmy Smith. I really appreciate it. On behalf of my co-host, Dwayne Ward, and the creator of Dad Talk Today, Eric Carroll, keep pushing to be the very best version of yourself that we can be, or that you can be. And we'll see you guys here on Dad Talk Today next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Until then, you guys have a great week, and we'll see you guys next week.